Hi guys, Jarrod here. Recently, Steven and I have been talking a lot about different fighting games and what have you, and he's actually the one that sort of got me back into the genre. I used to be a huge fighting game fan, from like Street Fighter 2 all the way into the Dreamcast era, but after that I sort of had like a falling out. I'm not entirely sure why, probably because I used to play most of my fighters on Sega hardware, so whatever. I thought today to do something a little bit different. I would talk about one of my favorite portables ever, the Neo Geo Pocket Color. But instead of talking about the hardware like I've already done, I'd show you my collection. Now, I don't have very many games, and almost all of them come in these fancy little cases like this, except for one game, which we're going to start off with, which is Pac-Man. This is the games came in kind of neat little boxes. Here, just to show you a quick little thing here. Why they're kind of neat is because you could open them up like this. You had your instruction manual there, and then the game. So that's Pac-Man, and it's pretty standard stuff. I'm not a huge Pac-Man fanatic like Steven is, but it's a good game. This and you can pick it up for like dirt cheap on eBay. Now, most of my games I have are like this, like I said. So next up is Metal Slug. I believe it's called First Mission. Yeah. So Metal Slug First Mission. This is a unique take on the Metal Slug series in the sense that it fits in your pocket. It's the same classic action and animation that you've come to love from the series. Highly, highly recommend this one and its follow-up, Metal Slug Second Mission. Really good one. Again, solid action game if you're a fan of the Metal Slug series, which most people who aren't exactly familiar with SNK, they know the Metal Slug series, so I'm pretty sure you all know that. So next up is Sonic Pocket Adventure. Now you have to keep in mind, back when this was released, I believe this was in '99, I'm not mistaken. Anyways, whatever. Sega was still in the hardware game business, so this was shocking. You know, this was like seeing Mario show up on, say, the PlayStation Portable or something like that. It was just wow. And to make matters even more interesting, SNK really had a good following with Sega. They actually released a cable for the Neo Geo Pocket Color that you could connect into your Sega Dreamcast. We'll get to a title that particularly made use of that in just a sec. So, if you're looking for something that isn't an action game or isn't a platformer like Sonic, well then there's Puzzle Bobble Mini. This is like Super Bust-A-Move. Probably the best puzzle game on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Can't recommend that enough again. Really good one. And for those looking for something a little bit different, this next game is an action RPG, but sort of wrapped around a shooter. It's kind of interesting. It's called Dark Arms. Now, don't be confused with this with the original SNK sort of obscure arcade game. This actually shares very little resemblance to that original title, but still very, very good. The actual title is Dark Arms Beast Buster 1999. Gotta love SNK's titles. Okay, moving along, we've got Fatal Fury First Contact. This was, this is what you would expect from SNK on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. This is a dedicated fighting game from the Fatal Fury series, and it's really good. This was one of the first ones to show you just how powerful this portable was, and just how shocking that SNK was able to create good quality fighters like Fatal Fury First Contact on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Next up, we have the King of Fighters R2. Steven actually talked about this one in one of his videos, which I'll add into the description, because the original King of Fighters R1 was released for the Neo Geo Pocket, not the Neo Geo Pocket Color, its follow-up. This is a pretty solid fighter. There's a reason I'm mentioning them like this, and you'll see in a sec. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken though, let's go back to that. I believe this King of Fighters version did connect to a King of Fighters that was released on the Dreamcast, so I could be wrong with that. I know that there's one title I'm going to talk about that is most certainly compatible with that Dreamcast link cable, but I believe this one was as well. Okay, so next up we have Samurai Showdown 2. This is a classic series. I didn't get too much into this portable one, and even those other portable fighters, even though I do enjoy the King of Fighters and Fatal Fury and all the rest, I preferred the AES versions, which we'll talk about eventually. But no, they're still all solid fighters. For portables, they destroy everything else that was on the market at the time. And okay, so coming up next, only 3 more games, not a huge collection, and it took me a while just to find all my different games. I thought I had them before, but anyways, this is a really unique one that I didn't even remember actually owning, which is Gals Fighters. Yeah, Gals Fighters. You know, I probably should have taken this off to show you them better, but whatever. Not the end of the world, I guess, just to give you a quick glimpse. This is really unique. This features all the female characters from all the different SNK fighters that have been taken and put into this one little package, and it's one heck of a good fighting game. This is actually my second favorite fighting game on the platform, believe it or not. Really, really good stuff. Okay, only 2 more games left. And the first one I'm going to mention is Card Fighters Clash SNK vs. Capcom. This is not exactly like my favorite type of game. It's something like Magic the Gathering. It's a what are they called? A customizable card game, I think. I'm not a huge fan of these sorts of things, but I bought this years ago because it was the first collaboration between SNK and Capcom, and I wanted to support them in the hopes and prayers that maybe one day we'd get a fighting game between the two companies. And lo and behold, that happened with hands down my favorite game on the platform, which I'm going to open up here and show you, which is SNK vs. Capcom Match of the Millennium. This is hands down one of the best fighting games you will ever play on any portable. The roster of characters, the amount of moves you can pull off, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. I still recommend people go out and pick up the Neo Geo Pocket Color with this game and just get used to seeing this in the back of your system, because I guarantee you this will stay in your system for literally years to come. So that's it. That is essentially my Neo Geo Pocket Color collection. Nothing too extravagant. It's only a handful of games, and most of them you can find dirt cheap, especially if you find them like this without the box. I bought most of these either like around the time they came out or shortly thereafter. Most of the boxes were destroyed in the move. Even this one, my Pac-Man one, is a little bit caved in, but I figured, well, this one, it's not too bad. Alright guys, if there's any SNK fans out there, one day I'm going to touch base on one of my favorite systems ever. Unfortunately, I no longer own it. That'll be a story for another day, but so I can talk about things like this. This is one of the best games ever released on the Neo Geo AES, and I've been looking through all my different games for my AES collection. For those that have never seen these games before, they open like this. This is actually a plastic shell. Inside you have a little manual. And then you have the smallest cartridge you've ever seen. That is a Neo Geo AES cartridge. Look at that. Okay, this is a behemoth. It is absolutely huge. To give you an idea, I always go to my trusty PlayStation controller, as you know. If I hold this up here and take this, look at this. It dwarfs it. It's almost the size of 2 controllers for just one game. Now the AES, if you don't know anything about this, the AES was Neo Geo's home console. It was a 24-bit machine, and it was the world's first arcade-perfect home console. It remains one of the best fighting platforms of all time. It also has the Metal Slug series on it, making it one of the best shoot-'em-up platforms of all time. Now, because it was arcade-perfect, when it was released in, I believe, I never remember the exact year, it was either 89 or 90, it was a little expensive. I believe it retailed for $650, almost $700 back then. Each game, such as ones like this, they retailed for around $200 to $300 each game. But it made sense back then. You have to think of it that back then there were no true arcade ports for home consoles. I mean, things like Street Fighter, yeah, they were great on the SNES, but they paled in comparison to the actual arcade unit. Whereas something like this, which is Samurai Showdown 2, was exactly like it was in the arcade. Now, this is the Japanese version, and the reason for that was back when me and my buddies used to play these games constantly, the Japanese versions featured things like blood, which was, hardcore back then. So we typically bought a lot of the Japanese releases. Not to lie to you guys, but the other truth of the matter is that the North American releases were exceptionally rare even back then. And around 95, 96, 97, 98, it was really difficult to find some of these games. And North American copies of games like SNK versus Capcom Chaos would fetch around $500 to $700. One of my favorite fighters ever for the system, Garou, Mark of the Wolves, typically goes for almost $800 now. So I'm going to talk about that in a separate video, but it remains one of my favorite platforms ever. But just to give you a little backstory here, I never actually owned the system. I owned the games, or at least a lot of them, and a buddy of mine would take care of the systems and the joysticks and whatever. Unfortunately, when he moved away, I got stuck with the games, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all, considering these games go for so much money today. But I need to pick up another Neo Geo, and I'm looking for a modified one right now. So one day, I'd say give me a couple of months, and our SNK coverage is going to go through the roof because, like I said, I have all kinds of these games. And, well, yeah, I hope you enjoy the coverage, and I hope you guys like this video. By all means, leave a comment, subscribe, like, whatever you do. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.